Welcome to Day Zero. Welcome to Day Zero. Today, I'm joined by Rhys Rogers, the founder and CEO of Before You Buy. Rhys, welcome.
Thank you, Gussie.
Mate, I wanted to have a conversation with you about a few different things. You've now become one of the largest prop tech companies in Australia. It's not been overnight. It's been a journey of you building out, finding product market fit, building an incredible team that now makes you the largest marketplace for building and pest inspection and buyer insights as well. The three topics I really want to get into today with you is one, the origin story of how you actually came into this space, because it's a pretty interesting one. Two is into like you traveling around, doing all the meetings, doing everything yourself, into evolving into scale and going into like, how do you go from being the person who's doing the work to actually the person who leads the team and actually empowers people to do the work with you and for you? And then finally into some insights that you've got now that you've got so much data and you're at a scale and you've got integrations with both major real estate portals in Australia. So let's kick off. Like, how did you end up in this category?
Yeah, so I mean, you had heard this story before, Gussie, but 8 years of being I used to say when I was single, a corporate restructuring expert, but it really was insolvency accounting. So 8 years of being an insolvency accountant, unfortunately, it was a really good job, to be honest. It was really interesting. You were trying to help people, you were trying to save businesses, but unfortunately, quite often the business got to you a bit late. And could only be wound up. So you were making people redundant, you were selling all the assets, and paying back creditors as best you could. A very good training ground, as you know, for starting a business and just looking at cash flow and why did all these businesses fail? Well, I just don't want to be in that, go down that same path. We nearly did once, but that's probably maybe a next question. But during that time, there was a property in Woollahra, this is about 2011, I think, selling for $7.5 million. We engaged Pete Starr, who's still a very good friend of mine. He's a bell at Double Bay. And he was complaining about opening a property up twice for a building and pest inspection, one on the Monday and one on the Wednesday. And he said on the Wednesday, do you mind going out? Because he had another appointment. I said, that's no worries at all. So I went out and I watched this building and pest inspector go around this massive property in Woollahra. Got back and I was like, why doesn't the first person just let that building and pest inspection report go to that second interested buyer? It would save everyone a lot of time and money. And he said, look, people just don't do it because they don't get anything back. So that was the kind of light bulb moment. I always knew I'd start a business. I didn't know what it was going to be, and I had a few other ideas. So then, looked at other things you could offer, like strata reports, conveyancing. That were kind of the early ones we offered. Very much focused on a consumer share cost model, which is it's a big part of our business. But soon after launching, we realised maybe we can convince agents to get these reports up front, be more transparent. It is one of those strange industries. I know we sold a lot of companies in our accounting days, and you would get every bit of DD possible ready for as many buyers as you could, so they could bid confidently or put in their best offer and have as little amount of questions as possible. Yeah, real estate's kind of one of those funny ones where it's not exactly the same. I mean, New South Wales, to be fair, is really good. ACT makes it compulsory, which I actually don't think works quite as well. And we're growing a lot in other states. Victoria and South Australia are probably our two fastest growing states, but there's still some of those agents who want to get these things up front and some who don't. I think it is going in that one direction though. But yeah, in terms of how it happened, it was just a conversation with an agent complaining about a pain point.
I want to talk about a story you told me before, which is obviously in your previous role. A lot of what you're doing, unfortunately, was conversations around redundancies, which is not an easy one to have.
No, and the funny thing is I was made redundant.
That's the one. Yeah, so maybe if you can talk about how you first funded the business and what happened with it.
Yeah. So it was great. I still look back and go, would I have quit and started before you bid at the time, now before you buy, or did I need that push? And I'd love to convince myself that I was definitely 100% going to do it. But I had in my calendar, we were in Grosvenor building on 225 George. there was a building being built across the road, and I had the idea for Before You Bid, and I was just being internally a bit soft to quit and go and do it. I walked past the site manager. I said, "Oh, when does this finish?" He said, "Oh, 30 March, I think it was 2015." And I went back to the office and I put in my calendar, today's the day. Like, if you haven't quit by the time that building's finished, then you really are a weak person. So anyway, then 28th of February, 28th of February, I'm pretty sure, 2015, my boss, who I'm still very good friends with, Jim Sarantinos, pulls me in for a meeting. I'm like, oh my God, I've sent a stupid email. I've just done something dumb. What do I, his voice changed. It was like I went back to primary school. I was getting in trouble. I was like, there's something wrong here. And anyway, he pulled me in, and there was a new HR person there who I didn't really know that well. And he was handshaking with genuinely good friends, tearing up a bit in the eyes. He's like trying to do the legal kind of thing he had to do. So, Jim, is this redundancy? And he goes, yeah. And I go, mate. And I just had the biggest smile on my face because I knew what was coming. And I go, oh, okay. I go, great. And he goes, I go, don't worry, mate. And kind of grabbed him. I was like, you don't have to finish it. He goes, no, legally, I've got to say this. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then I was just breathing easy. I knew a great check was coming. They offered me counselling and a few other things. I kind of said, oh, no, it's not really something I need. But the only thing I needed was on my computer was the business plan for Before You Bid.
Oh, right.
And so the number one rule in insolvency is do not let a redundant employee touch a computer, because they could send an email out to everyone and say, all our customers hate you, whatever. These people fired me. They're the worst people in the world. So I think it was Rochelle was her name. The HR person was saying, oh, is there anything else you need from us? And I said, oh, look, the only thing I need is just to access my computer for a second. I've just got some personal insurances and other things I need to send through. And she doesn't know me very well. She's looking at Jim just going, do not let this guy touch a computer. And then Jim kind of looked at her, then looked at me and just started laughing. He's like, no, Rhys is not going to do anything like that. And I was like, oh, I forgot about that. Sorry. Look, someone can watch over my shoulder. I just need to get a couple of things off. So anyway, I managed to, get my business plan. I got a $60,000 business grant, as I told Jim he'd just given me. And then I went and just, really hammered our business plan, got some, engineers, everything else. But it was kind of 6 months of prep work. And then we launched on August 5, I think it was, that year with our first build of the website.
So you've got some personal runway, some working capital, you've got your first inspector. What's it look like from then, the first 12 months into the business? What are you doing, and what are some of the highs you remember and the lows?
There was a lot of highs, really, because we got, agents. I quickly pivoted. I went from, okay, we're going to have this marketplace and buyers are going to somehow find us. The business model changed almost immediately. When I spoke to a few agents, I said, one or two were like, oh, we get them up front. And I was like, that's got to be the model. Let's make this, quite common. Funnily enough, it's probably not less of our focus now, but we're kind of going back to that consumer side, and we think we'll meet in the middle. We're at about 80-20 now, agent to or vendor to consumer, and we think it'll end up at about 50-50. 80
come to site directly versus 20 or?
No, 80% of our reports. So we do about 60,000 listings a year now. 80% of them are kind of driven by agents saying to their vendor, hey, let's be transparent. Let's have everything ready. Mm-hmm. And 20% are just people coming to our website.
Got it. Yeah.
I think it'll end up, just because those longer days on market properties, there's a few little intricacies where I don't think having a report up front actually makes sense. So buyers will just come and get their own in a calling off period.
Yeah.
But those early days, it was really, kind of almost, I say, Alex Phillips style. You just get there. You've got a long list of real estate agents, and you just keep calling. And I just had this Excel spreadsheet, and I'd go on and I'd see who was selling enough or selling a lot. And it was 8 in the morning till 11 at night, Monday to Thursday. I kind of did an 8 till 5 Friday, 9 till midday Saturday, and midday to 5 Sunday. Probably 4 years, or three to 4 years. But it was fun. We were growing. I was, I didn't know what I was doing, learning. Yep. We worked with a girl together who works with you now, Sabine, and she came on. It was just another energy ball that, just kind of reinvigorated me. And every time you get a new great staff member, you're like, yeah, let's keep going again. They fire you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, we might segue into it, but it's kind of like the 4 to 5 year mark where you're like, okay, now we're a serious business. We kind of need to pivot again.
And what did that pivot look like when you're going from like that team of, fewer you where, everyone, all their personal lives, everything that makes them tick into where you are now? How big's the team now?
43, I think.
Yeah. And they're across Australia as well, predominantly in Sydney, but obviously you got people out on the road and stuff.
And in the Philippines. And I guess the other change is I used to know every inspector on our marketplace pretty well. And now there's 500. And I'd probably still know the same ones I knew well from the beginning, but there's, I don't have that face-to-face interaction as often. We've got an inspector advisory panel, but I don't know all our inspectors as well as, you do when you first start. It's just not possible. So yeah, it's gone from obviously not employees, they run their own businesses, but it's kind of gone from me and a handful of inspectors and a customer support and Sabine.
Yep.
And, agents to then 500 inspectors, 2,000 real estate officers, 60,000 inspections. So it's changed a lot.
And in that time, at that first 5 years, what's one thing that you learnt about yourself that you remember, and a quality that you've learnt of something that you're good at now that you didn't otherwise know? And the second one would be something you've learned about the business over that time as well.
Something I learned about myself is pretty funny, actually. The other day, we RACV are one of our big investors, got about 30% of our business. They went up from 20 to 30% recently, secondaries, and bought out a few of our early shareholders. 2 of them were groomsmen at my wedding.
Yeah, right.
And so I took around these kind of joke novelty checks to their places. And it was really, really nice moment. They'd invested, obviously, thinking that it was just a sinkhole. And they're like, yeah, good luck. We won't see that money again. But to kind of give them something back, albeit 10 years later, but, not a bad return.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. So they took me out to say thank you with our wives. And, we're sitting there. And then one of my friends, James, who loves a speech at any kind of circumstance, really. It's like, I think we should all go around and talk a bit about, this moment, because it's not something, that happens often. And I went around, it was all really nice. And then it got to James and he's like, yeah, Rhys, he goes, he said he's going to start his own business. I was like, look, he's incredible. He goes, look, he's incredibly bright, but he's the laziest person I know. He goes, it's going to be really interesting to see, he goes, if he can actually work hard at something for a long period of time. Now, I admittedly didn't work very hard at school, and I kind of cruised through university and other things. But I always thought in my head, of course I'm going to work hard at something. But when he said that, I was like, as if anyone else would have thought that, because I hadn't proven it once in my 30 years of existence at that point. I never tried that hard. Like, I tried at sport, I love sport, but I never really went all in on at anything. So I guess I thought it, but maybe other people learned that I could work hard at something, which was good. And the second question was about the business, something I learned. Yeah. I think the main thing with the business is you can never stop talking to your customer. Even now, whenever we start to we're nearly 10 years, over 10 years now, you kind of have these, it's been steady up. It's a bit of a heartbeat slowly upwards, kind of 30% year on year growth now, which is good. But we'd obviously like to go faster. But whenever we're doing this, I'm like, I don't think we've spoken to enough customers to work out why it's doing this. And you just call a few that you might have lost or that, might not be where you want them to be at. And you usually work things out pretty quickly. And then you just go, oh, shock me, we're going back up again. So yeah, always stay very close to the customer is probably one thing.
We gave your team a call and wanted to ask them, like, what are some of the qualities, if there's one word to describe Rhys, what would they be? I'll give you what do you think, firstly, the 3 answers they would have given as one word to describe you?
Question. I'd say hopefully one thing I think I am is precise. Maybe do that? I don't know.
Pretty close.
Yeah, precise. I don't think I like. If we're in a meeting and people are fluffing around with an answer, I'm like, I don't think we've prepared enough for this, and I'll cancel meetings if I don't think people are prepared. So maybe that's something that kind of came in.
So the first one was that we asked was blunt.
Blunt, okay, yeah. Well, that sounds nice as precise, but yeah, that's probably right.
But it's on the right track. The second one was compassionate, and the third one was intelligent.
Yeah. Lazy didn't get in there, which
lazy
is good.
Did not get in there. No.
Yeah. No, I don't think I've showed too much laziness since starting this business. But yeah, and I'd like to think. I mean, I'm very lucky to work with my brother Jordan. We often say we shared a bedroom till we were 14, so we can easily share a business. And yeah, he's just an incredible person to work with. He's super compassionate. So I think our parents just very much drilled that into us. Yeah. Particularly people who are struggling. You got to try and lift them up where you can.
Do you reckon that the fact that you come from a big family has had an impact on how you kind of run your business and look at it, and the competitive nature of being, what are you, one of five? Kids? One of eight, sorry. Yeah,
youngest of 8. Yeah, so I say I'm skinny because there just wasn't enough food on the table. So I had to get in there and try and get my bangers and mash. Undoubtedly, yeah. So when I say I wasn't very competitive at sport unless I was playing it against my siblings in our backyard, where I'd cry and throw cricket bats and do all that, have little tantrums if I wasn't getting my way. But undoubtedly, yes, made it very competitive. I think also the biggest benefit. I'm going to go on a massive segue here, so you might edit this out. But one of the biggest benefits of being the youngest of 8 kids is that I was always talking to older people than me. So whenever I met anyone who was older than me from a young age, I was never I didn't see that age gap as something that meant anything. Yeah. And I think very early on, I assessed people, even teachers, which they hated. I'd be like, I don't know if this teacher's 100% giving us, a good run here. And I'd play up in those classes, unfortunately, stupidly looking back. But at the time I was like, I don't think this person's prepared. So why would I pay attention? Yeah. But then when there was a good teacher, I was like, right in, and I was, it was more maths where I had a lot of good teachers. So I went reasonably well at maths, but some other classes I didn't, just because I was bored. But I think having that ability to kind of read people, based on nothing to do with age or seniority or position, it was just like, do I want to get around this person? I think that's one benefit of being the youngest of 8 kids. And I was talking to Josh Callahan, who you'd know from Little Hinges, and he said he's homeschools his kids, which, we were talking about this for a while the other day. Yeah. He said one benefit, he fell into it for a different reason than, most. He's got triplets, and anyway, that's not by the by. But he said one thing he's noticed is his kids, because you meet up with other parents who homeschool, and so it's 5-year-olds to 18-year-olds. He said his kids are just now so confident talking to older people. They're just, they'll go into a cafe and order anything. And I was like, yeah, that was probably a little bit like my childhood, where my brothers would have, there's so many 15-year-olds running around when I was 5. So I naturally see how they interact with each other. I'd try and interact with them. I'd miss some of my jokes weren't that good, but you're practicing things and you're trying to work out, and you're just used to talking to, older people. So I think that helped a lot with giving you confidence, basically, to talk to anyone.
It's an interesting insight. I mean, totally. I think a lot of people that have come into, even me, is like, the more you're around people that are a lot older than you, the more you understand, get comfortable with people, and you don't kind of see the hierarchy of things as well, and the different exposures that you get into, like, whether it's, you dealing with different walks of life, whether it's a socioeconomic family, or you go to a private school, or you see both, which you and I have both seen, and being able to walk in both circles is a good quality to have, and just seeing them for people as well. Going and transitioning back to the business is, at 45 people, I dare say, during that journey from 0 to 45, was there a moment where you realized you had to change the way you were behaving, showing up, and what work you were doing on a daily basis as a leader?
Yeah, it would become probably from years 4 to 6. We've got this really stupid, and people are going to laugh at this if they've got a tech business because they're like, you're an idiot. But we've got we have all our reports that are open, and we get paid sometimes when we close the reports, we find the successful buyer. And we've had a few different systems to try and get that right. Unfortunately, if we close too early, then agents and customers go crazy at us. And why can't I buy this report? It should be there. The property's still live. So we have to lean on the conservative side of closing these reports out. But then we need the money for cash flow purposes. And so every Christmas, and it was this one Christmas where I realized we hadn't closed out thousands of reports. So it's like a lot of money if you think about sometimes, you're getting $450 or $200 on the back end of this. So it's just before Christmas, and I was like, I don't have enough staff here to go to you, hey, we need this done before Christmas Day because we need the cash flow to come in to pay the wages in early Jan because there's no other orders coming in. So I'd spend kind of 5 days back to doing 8 in the morning till 10:30 at night, literally going, copy address, and this is before AI could do, copy address, post in here, check REA and domain, yeah, it was sold, close. And that happened about 2 or 3 Christmases in a row. And then I was like, oh, I don't think this is sustainable. And then Jordan came into the business and we were like, okay, let's build some structures where me and you're actually doing the things we're meant to be doing. And thankfully now, certainly the last 6 months, I don't think the business could be in a better position where I'm definitely doing what I'm meant to be doing. We've still got a few things for Jordan's role where I think he could hand over a few things, but yeah, it's in a good spot now. But you need to build those structures and be like, let's write out every task that every single person does, including me, and be like, should I be doing this?
And how much of a role do you think or an impact the business coach has had on freeing up your time, building out disciplines, building out rituals and rhythms and repeatable and scalable processes?
Yeah, and I'll give him a shout out. We use a group called Performance 7. There's Vern Harnish does a book called Scaling Up, which I'm sure a lot of people have read. Konstantinopoulos and Phil Harris are kind of big disciples of it as well. That's kind of what my brother read the book and then said, hey, you should read this. And there was a conference and we went to it and we bumped into a guy when you were on another business, and he was like, I can't believe you don't have a performance coach. He's like, you just need one. I'm like, what do you mean? You run a great business. He's like, yeah, that's when you need one. He's like, just to keep you on track, keep the discipline. Then, yeah, Jordan and I were like, it would probably be pretty nice to have someone to kind of helicopter and be like, are we doing a good job? We think we're doing a good job, but we're not above getting advice. So yeah, we engage them once a month. We catch up. We set up quarterly big rocks of what we're going to do. But their whole thing, a lot of it's about discipline and meetings and constantly talking with your team, which has been great. One of the biggest things they push though is building leaders within your business, which probably because Jordan and I were just taking it from a startup, we're quite involved in we had been involved in every single decision that was being made, which isn't really scalable. So the big thing was like, okay, you need to create these leaders who take on things. So, and it can be the bigger, product or whatever, which is super important, but also just the smaller things. When someone in the team says, okay, staff morale in this team's a little bit low, we should take them out for a lunch, or we should do some sort of quarterly ritual or whatever. And it's like, great, who's organizing it? Because it's not me and Jordan. We're not doing that. So now everyone kind of sees that, great, let's all have these ideas, but someone in the business needs to execute it. And it's not always me and Jordan. And there's some stuff we definitely do. Yeah. But there's a lot less of that, which has been, it's been good. And I think it's been empowering for our team as well. Because they're like, okay, we can actually steer the ship a little bit as well.
Yeah. Moving into the last topic around insights of, you've scaled it up, you got it to 60,000 listings going through it. How many reports is that?
It's about 170,000.
170,000 buyers who are buying reports, and is a signal to a person that I have intent to want to buy. Yeah. What are some of the interesting insights you're seeing across the industry around whether it's trends in the market, where you think the market's going to head based on, is Melbourne going to pop off because you're seeing there's way more demand running through there versus regional Queensland at the moment.
We've got a good kind of lead indicator, I think. I'm sure some others would say, but we do think we've got the best buyer intent data at a buyer level. You know, if they're willing to download a building and pest inspection report, they're probably turning up to auction that weekend. They're probably going to bid. So, you know, we see the average downloads rates in that massive kind of boom period a couple of years ago went up to 2.8. Our kind of average is, you know, around that 2.2 level. When interest rates went up 13 times, it dropped down to 1.4. But we could see the drop in people buying these reports before all these things were coming out in the media about how, you know, where it's all going. So that was really interesting. It's a pretty stable market in terms of downloads at the moment. It's around that 2.1, 2.2 mark, which is kind of the long-term 10-year average for us.
Where's trending higher than the average?
Well, it's always those kind of pockets of, you know, the inner west, eastern suburbs, lower north shores of Sydney, kind of, you know, that Toorak, South Yarra area, Victoria,
your blue chip markets.
New Farm, your blue chip markets. You're always going to get a few more, but you can get these random places in, like the Barossa Valley gets like a lot. So you get some odd ones that, you know, come out at you. But yeah, at the moment, I'd say it's a pretty stable market. I mean, interest rates going up next year. If they do, please don't. We'll make it interesting, and we'll see that kind of play out. It'll be interesting. I should have prepared some data for today, but even I was just randomly looking at a few listings today, and the downloads weren't quite where I thought they would be. So whether that talk of interest rate rises is already playing out in our numbers we'll know in the next kind of 2 weeks.
Definitely will. I mean, often it's like the consumer sentiment runs ahead of what's actually happening. They've already made a decision that they think it's going to happen, and so they've baked it into their decision-making process. People pulled out of the market. We were chatting to Sabine earlier, and what we've seen in the last like 2 weeks has been a spike of more people wanting to get into the market. There's been this uncertainty over the last few months of like, what's going to happen globally? Do I hold off? There's not enough stock available, so where am I trading out of and into? And you're starting to see like listing numbers are actually fairly down on an average basis to what they were over the 5-year average as well.
I mean, that just keeps going that way, doesn't it? John Cunningham said there's less stock now than there was kind of 10 years ago, and there's way more
population.
Population. There's way more houses and units in the northern beaches, but there's less listings.
Totally.
And Sabine, I think, you know, we obviously have a partnership with Founded. I think 3 sign-ups in the last few weeks of buyers who have gone through our platform, missed out on a property, and we offer Founded as a potential conversation. 3 sign-ups in the last couple of weeks, which is a lot above average, which just shows that people do still need that help in that last step of the journey.
Totally. Last one, just moving into it, is obviously you're at that stage now where you're a business. You've been around for a long time now. You've got scale. You've proven product market fit. What would be some advice that you would give to a founder who's day zero or a few months in? What's the one piece of advice you'd impart as a last question to you?
I've said this before, but go for a higher margin business or higher margin product than I did, because you literally had to get kind of close to 20% market share to be a good business. So, but no, that wouldn't be it. But if you want to try and go for a little widget, go for a little widget. It's but would be the number one bit of advice. I would say I would actually speak to the person, and I know investors do this. My cousin's at Square Peg, and he said it's one of the big things he looks at. Only do it if you're very comfortable with failure. Because thankfully, you know, when I had that spreadsheet and I called, you know, I was making 80, 100 calls a day or whatever it was. And the amount of, you know, someone would be like, F you, like, for calling me about this, like, you know, that kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, sorry, mate. But it didn't impact me at all. Like, and when we hired people in sales and customer support, I'm like, look, sometimes, you know, people are buying and selling property, they're pretty stressed out. You know, they're not always at their best. Are you comfortable having that occasional phone call? To be fair, some people said, oh, not really. Like, I'd prefer to go to do customer support somewhere else where that doesn't happen. I'm like, fine, but I just wanted to let you know that does occasionally happen. So anyway, to go back to whatever business you're starting, I think you're going to need to talk to people. Maybe AI will make this not needed, but to be very comfortable with rejection and the highs and lows.
Totally. Mate, thank you for coming on.
No worries.